Imagine stepping outside at night thousands of years ago. No streetlights, no neon signs, just shadows, wolves, and a glowing celestial orb that looks like it might be watching you. If you weren't at least a little creeped out by that floating circle of mystery, congrats, you'd probably die first. See, your ancestors didn't just think the moon was weird. They thought it did things, real things, dangerous things. The word lunatic? Yeah, that comes from luna, Latin for moon, because people believed the full moon could scramble your mental software like a corrupted Windows update. Insomnia, seizures, hysteria, all blamed on that smug white disk in the sky. And to be fair, they weren't totally wrong. The moon does mess with biology. Studies have shown sleep quality dips during full moons, even in total darkness, which is your brain's way of going, look, I can't see the moon, but I can feel the moon. Melatonin, your body's sleepy time juice, drops off during a full moon, which is probably why cave people were cranky and on edge during full moon nights. Why would evolution allow this nonsense? One theory, more moonlight meant better hunting conditions for predators. So your brain got twitchy and sleep-deprived on purpose. You weren't going crazy, you were preparing to not get eaten. Basically, your ancestors had the right idea. The moon wasn't evil, but it was definitely giving off don't sleep too hard or you'll wake up in a lion's stomach energy. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the moonlit room. Werewolves. You know, regular guys who suddenly become nightmare wolves when the moon hits its peak glow, like if puberty and a rabid dog had a baby. Now, obviously, you're not going to grow claws and start howling at the sky because the calendar says full moon. But this legend didn't just come from spooky campfire tales. It came from watching real people do really strange stuff when the moon was full. Enter hypertrichosis, a rare condition where people grow excessive hair all over their bodies. Combine that with epilepsy, rabies, or good old-fashioned medieval mental illness, and boom, you've got what looks like a dude transforming into a monster under moonlight. Add a couple of bad harvests and religious panic, and suddenly the whole village is forming a torch-wielding mob. Also, rabies, that's a big one. People foaming at the mouth, avoiding water, going violently berserk. It looked like demonic possession. And rabies spreads through bites. Bites! You can see how that would spiral into werewolf folklore real fast. And here's the kicker. Police records and emergency room stats still show a slight uptick in violent behavior, aggression, and hospital admissions during full moons. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's urban lighting plus confirmation bias. Or maybe, just maybe, the part of your brain that used to hide from moonlight is still in there, growling quietly. Basically, the full moon doesn't turn you into a monster. It just makes sure you're ready to act like one, if needed. You ever try sleeping with the light on? It's like your brain's trying to shut down while your eyeballs keep tapping the "Are you still watching?" button. Now, imagine a full moon in the ancient world. It's not just a light, it's a spotlight. No blackout curtains, no "Do not disturb" sign. Just a massive cosmic flashlight shining directly into your cave, like it's looking for someone. The human brain evolved to treat light as a cue. Light equals day, equals get up and do stuff. So when the full moon hits, your melatonin takes a nosedive, and your brain's like, cool, time to hunt or be hunted. Which, for people living in trees or tents, was not ideal. Sleep was essential for survival, and a moonlit sky basically shouted, "Wake up, loser!" Even worse, the moon was a schedule wrecker. Early farmers relied on lunar cycles to plant, harvest, and coordinate group rituals. The full moon should have been helpful, nice bright light to work by, but instead, it became this unpredictable wild card. Crops died, sheep wandered off, people got jumpy. And when the humans get jumpy, someone always ends up on fire. Usually a witch. So, yes, your ancestors were terrified of the full moon, because when it showed up, nobody slept.
Everybody panicked, and something or someone was probably about to die.
Ah, yes, the blood moon. Sounds like a heavy metal album, but to your ancient ancestors, it was basically the celestial version of "you're all gonna die." Picture it. You're living in a small village with zero understanding of atmospheric science, and one night, the familiar white moon turns an eerie, rusty red. Birds stop chirping. Dogs start barking. Your neighbor's goat just dropped dead for no reason. And suddenly, everyone is looking at the sky like it just filed for bankruptcy. Today, we know that a blood moon is just a lunar eclipse where sunlight passes through Earth's atmosphere and scatters, kind of like when the sun sets and everything turns orange. But back then, it meant one thing: doom. Every culture had its version of "we're screwed." In Mesopotamia, kings would go into hiding during blood moons. In ancient Inca belief, a jaguar was eating the moon. And medieval Europe, they just assumed God was pissed again. Even worse, blood moons were often followed by bad stuff: famines, plagues, invasions, because when you have millions of people constantly on edge, something is bound to go horribly wrong. And the blood moon got all the blame. Your brain, for the record, loves making connections, even when they make zero sense. See a creepy red moon plus experience an unrelated disaster equals obviously the moon did it. It's the same logic behind horoscopes, chain emails, and blaming Mercury for your breakup. It's comforting in a deeply irrational way. So yeah, your ancestors feared the blood moon, not because they were dumb, but because they lived in a world where nature had mood swings, and the moon showing up looking like it just got out of a horror movie was never a good sign.
Let's talk about one of the creepiest full moon side effects: parasomnias, aka sleep disorders that make you do weird stuff while unconscious. We're talking sleepwalking, sleep talking, sleep driving, and in some rare cases, sleep murder. Yes, that's a thing, and yes, it's been used as a defense in actual court cases. Full moons have long been linked, anecdotally and sometimes statistically, to an increase in parasomnia episodes. Why? The extra light disrupts your REM cycles, making your sleep fragmented and shallow. And when your brain is kind of asleep but also kind of awake, weird things happen. Like getting up in the middle of the night, cooking a full meal, and waking up with a spatula in your hand, wondering why there's bacon on the ceiling. Ancient people didn't call it parasomnia. They called it possession, or witchcraft, or being touched by the moon. That's not a metaphor. Moonstruck was a real diagnosis. And if someone in your village started wandering the forest at night, babbling nonsense under a glowing sky, yeah, that person was getting chained to a wall or sacrificed to something. Modern science can't fully explain all of it. Even now, sleepwalking is one of those "we mostly kinda get it" phenomena. But what we do know is that the full moon messes with your sleep architecture, like someone rearranged your internal IKEA instructions and forgot the screws. So next time you wake up standing in the hallway holding a frozen pizza and a wrench, maybe blame the moon.
Here's something fun. During a full moon, you can see better at night. You know who else can see better? Everything that wants to eat you. Back in the day before we had porch lights and panic rooms, our ancestors were just squishy, slow-footed meat bags trying not to become leopard snacks. So when that full moon lit up the night sky like a nature documentary, predators basically got night vision goggles, and your great-great-great-great-grandpa got anxiety. Studies on animal behavior actually show that some predators hunt more effectively under full moons. Lions, for example, shift their feeding patterns. Owls become more accurate. Even certain insects become more active and aggressive. The natural world turns into a slightly brighter, more coordinated death party, and you're on the invite list whether you like it or not. Your brain remembers this. Not specifically. No one's having flashbacks of saber-toothed tigers, but evolution doesn't care if you understand why you're scared. It just wants you to stay alive long enough to pass on your genes. So full moon equals more danger equals more alertness. That's why your nervous system starts throwing sparks and why every full moon has the vibe of a very slow, silent panic attack. If your ancestors didn't freak out when the moon got too bright, they didn't stay ancestors. They became part of a predator's lunch special.
Okay, so you'd think we'd have grown out of this lunar paranoia by now. We have science. We have Netflix. We don't need to blame our problems on a giant rock in the sky, right? Wrong. Hospitals still staff extra workers on full moon nights. Police departments still quietly brace for more chaos. Emergency rooms report upticks in injuries, accidents, even psychiatric admissions. Is it superstition? Probably. Is it placebo? Maybe. But are people still getting weirder on full moons? You bet you're melatonin-deprived, but they are. Part of it is the expectation effect. If you believe a full moon makes people go nuts, then suddenly every weird thing that happens must be because of the moon. But even when researchers control for bias, some studies still show odd spikes. More reckless behavior, more aggression, more hold my beer moments that end in ER visits. Is the moon actually doing this? Or are we just conditioned by centuries of mythology and collective twitchiness? Honestly, it doesn't matter. If enough people believe the moon affects their brain, their behavior starts to match the myth. Welcome to psychology, where belief becomes reality, and reality becomes someone else's problem. Your ancestors might not have had data, but they definitely had instincts. And when it came to the moon, their instincts screamed, stay inside, light a fire, and don't trust Barry from the next cave over. He's acting funny again.
All right, time to talk about the other thing the moon's always been associated with. Cycles, specifically the kind that involve blood, mood swings, and an entire shelf of overpriced wellness products. Yep, menstrual cycles. Ancient cultures noticed that the average human cycle, around 29.5 days, lined up eerily well with the lunar cycle. Coincidence? Maybe. Biological moon-summoned witchcraft? Probably not, but it felt that way to early humans. So naturally, the moon got linked to fertility, pregnancy, birth, and the whole messy miracle of human reproduction. Full moons were thought to trigger ovulation, increase libido, or cause spontaneous childbirth. And let's be honest, when you don't have modern plumbing or privacy, you're going to notice when everyone starts syncing up with the moon like it's running a hormonal group chat. Some studies have found slight correlations between full moons and birth rates or menstrual timing. Others have found nothing. But what matters isn't whether it's true, it's that people believed it was, which meant full moons became a kind of sacred biological deadline. Time to conceive, time to give birth, time to perform a ritual and hope your baby doesn't come out cursed. That belief still lingers. Ask a midwife or an ER nurse what full moon nights are like. Many will swear it's chaos. Is that scientific? Debatable. Is it spooky grandma energy? Absolutely. And let's not forget the sheer poetic power of linking life's bloodiest miracle to a glowing celestial orb that turns red once in a while. That's prime mythology fuel. So, yes, your ancestors watched the moon not just with fear, but with anticipation. Because sometimes the thing shining down on you wasn't a threat. It was a reminder that your entire species runs on a weird, squishy biological clock that might just be ticking to the beat of moonlight.
Finally, let's talk about what happens when a bunch of sleep-deprived humans, already stressed out by moonlight and survival, decide to get mystical about it. You know what really doesn't help? Forming a cult. That's right. Full moons have long been tied to rituals, sacrifices, fire dancing, and whatever your weird neighbor Steve thinks qualifies as a spiritual awakening. Because when you're exhausted, paranoid, and biologically primed to feel weird, you don't always make the best choices. Ancient tribes used full moons as markers for festivals, calendars, even legal judgments. Sometimes it was beautiful. Sometimes it ended in human sacrifice and everyone pretending it was totally normal. That combination of heightened emotion, right-induced insomnia, and group psychology, that's cult starter fluid. And hey, modern folks aren't immune either. Ever been to a full moon party? That's just ancient moon worship, but with more glitter and slightly less cannibalism. Slightly. Your brain on a full moon is like a house party with no supervision. The security system's half asleep, the alarm's going off in another room, and someone's trying to summon their past lives using incense and a playlist called Witchy Vibes. So yeah, your ancestors feared the full moon, because sometimes the scariest thing it revealed was us.